Thank you, Caitlin. I'm going to talk about medical technology and its impact on rural America. As we had heard from the group last week that presented on medical services in rural areas, technology is certainly lacking. So what can be done to help those in need of a lack of medical services and with only 10% of doctors practicing in rural areas? In other words, that's the equivalent to 104 urban doctors per 100,000 people and only 65 doctors per 100,000 people in rural areas. I come from what urban planners have called the most isolated city in the state of Wisconsin, nestled in between the Chequamegon and National Forests. However isolated may have been growing up, in my research I've found that the rest of rural America shares the same or very similar medical technological issues and advances in medical technology. The first advance rural medical technology benefits from is actually derived from what rural medical technology lacks, technology itself. That's the one thing I uncovered while studying medical technology in rural areas, is that a lot of the technology developed to help out rural communities comes from the lack of technologies at the hospitals themselves. The most important medical needs in society are in emergency situations. That's where Flight for Life is so instrumental. First introduced in 1972 at St. Anthony's Central Hospital in Denver, they use helicopters in rural areas to transport patients to urban hospitals or to a hospital period if you're really out in the middle of nowhere. In a rural area such as where I grew up, there is a hospital but cannot service severe injuries that involve severe trauma from car accidents, for example, or cases that involve specialized medical attention. As Karen Schneider, the supervisor for AirLife out of Denver, said, when you're living in Coyote, Wyoming, you're not going to have a lot of pediatric cardiologists nearby. A cardiologist is one example of a specialized surgeon which is not generally available in rural areas. Using Park Falls as an example, Flight for Life transports severe injuries or severe medical emergencies to the Marshfield Clinic in Marshfield, Wisconsin, which is a 2-hour drive from Park Falls. The helicopter can make the straight shot flight in less than 45 minutes, greatly impacting the chance for survival as every second can count. The technology that is used to save people's lives nowadays in urban hospitals is just not available in all rural areas. Therefore, transporting patients as quickly as possible is imperative. Rural hospitals such as Park Falls do not even have an MRI machine. Which leads me to mobile MRI or mobile imaging trucks as my second technology that impacts rural America. Mobile MRI, semi-truck, and trailer technology can be brought in as demand goes up or set up on a scheduled basis. MRI is not the only piece of equipment being hauled around on these trucks. CT scans, PET scans, which are basically a nuclear machine that images a 3D dimensional picture of the functional imagery of the body. Sometimes these mobile imaging trucks even carry bone and breast equipment. The technologies carried by the imaging trucks are imperative to the correct diagnosis of many conditions in today's medicine. This is just an example of how Skype can mess you up because it is not always something you can copy and paste. So to go on, that's just an example of where I was distracted, and it can happen many times when using telemental health, which I'll get to in a minute. To quote Jeff Johnson, the director at a Falls Community Hospital and Clinic in Marlin, Texas, we are sending a lot of patients to over 30 miles in Waco, and we are looking to keep them local, he says. The mobile MRI has helped our bottom line. That's probably 40 patients for each month who don't need to travel. And for us, it means $300 to $400 for each of those patients. The mobile company has a marketing person who contacts all the doctors in our area of service, and we get referrals from other doctors who know we have the MRI. So that mobile MRI is making money for the hospital by not having to send the patients away and saving the patients money by not having to travel. Having to travel and all the pains that it can cause leads me to my next important medical technology, which is referred to as telehealth or telemental health. It's the technology derived from the business world and all the long-distance meetings they must attend. Telemental or telehealth shouldn't be very surprising medical technology term, as it is basically what you are watching me through right now. It is essentially the same thing as Skype or FaceTime. However, telehealth technologies are encrypted technologies and are in most cases HIPAA compliant and in use by private practitioners, private clinic networks, hospitals, government agencies, along with psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, social workers, along with government agencies and solo online private practice counseling. Over 70 different telehealth and telemental health programs are available. Most are HIPAA compliant. Telehealth and telemental health offers 24/7 access to licensed, broad certified physicians via phone, secure email, video, and mobile apps, making it easier for employees to get back to health faster. Staying healthy and remaining productive at the workplace are also beneficial. Not all have email, or one might not have video. To better tie this idea on how it can be used in the medical field, I like to use the example of rural veterans and how this telemental health technology can help them. Geographic disparities complicate the delivery of mental health care. Now this technology can be used for minor physical ailments. It is primarily at this point used in the mental health field of medicine. Rural and non-metropolitan counties had the highest concentrations of veterans according to the U.S. Census. An American Consumer Satisfaction Index survey of 53,788 visitors to the United States Department of Veterans Affairs website found that 37% of veterans say they have to travel an hour or more to the nearest Veterans Affairs facility, according to researcher Kim Natsy. The deputy director of the military's TRICARE telemental health program also makes a good point. She said that especially within the VA, there is a negative label casted on you if you seek medical health services. For example, in Milwaukee, if you are going to the 5th floor, everyone knows it's the mental health floor. In Tomah, Wisconsin, if you arrive at the mental health treatment facility, it is clearly labeled. So folks sometimes are hesitant to seek services because they do not want to be seen entering these locations. Using telemental health technology can take away that fear of being labeled. The negatives of speaking with a client via telemental health may report a sense of disconnect with their healthcare providers. Not being in the same room as clients takes away a lot of the nonverbal communications. Doctors, however, will tell you that they are watching every moment. So looking at the impact of medical technology from a human or social services standpoint, the lack of trained social workers or counselors at many times leads to an extra stress on people working in the medical field. Rural hospitals, for the most part, do not have social workers, and hospitals such as Park Falls, which only have discharge planners. One example is when my grandmother was called to the hospital to advise her my uncle was being airlifted to the Marshfield Clinic. One thing she told me she remembers is the EMT telling her to kiss her son goodbye because it was unlikely he would make it to Marshfield alive. They were telling her as they stuck the second EpiPen into his heart, trying to revive him. Not a social worker or counselor around. My grandmother, having the right to be upset, only had a nurse to briefly speak to as the doctor was unavailable. So the patient flies away. Now the family has to travel 90 miles to the Marshfield Clinic, and with going through all the small towns, it's like 2 hours. So for a 2-hour trip, the family with 2 carloads packed full of people traveling over 80 miles per hour, praying the whole time for 2 hours, has no idea in the meantime how the patient in the helicopter is until they arrive at the hospital. Now when the family gets to Marshfield, this puts an extra strain on the services that are not provided in the family's hometown. If it were not for Flight for Life, I would personally know 4 people that are not with us today. We have all heard last week the medical struggles rural America faces in a variety of ways. I showed you how rural healthcare even lacking the modernized infrastructure and technology, can benefit from advances in high-tech creation. Is it possible to have MRIs in every hospital or a vast variety of surgeon in rural areas to alleviate the need for mobile imaging trucks and telemental health? Yes, with enough money and resources. However, it is probably not going to happen. So these technologies I have mentioned will continue to help those when they need a simple checkup, or those in critical care that need the most immediate help in the furthest reaches of rural America.